just came in and I saw that my back door had been broken in, so I went to the back and I could see footsteps in the snow, so I ran up to my room to see if my roommate was okay. I have two roommates.
Okay.
One of them's dead, and the other one is in her room and she's still alive and she needs help, and I ran because I didn't know if he was still in the house.
Belgrade Police! Police Department! Anybody inside, come out! How many people are inside? We're making entry. How many people?
I am the police!
I'm the police, right here.
Where are you?
I'm right here. Can you see me?
Where are you?
I'm right here.
Where?
What happened to you? Where are you bleeding from?
I'm not bleeding.
Okay, well, how do you have blood all over you?
Do I?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know why I do.
I'm right here. Can you see me?
No.
Can you see anything?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
On January 7th, 2018, police were drawn into a distressing situation when they received a 911 call at 9:25 a.m. from a frantic man describing a terrifying shooting that had taken place in his neighborhood. What seemed like a typical emergency call would soon unravel into something far more sinister and unexpected.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I live at, we got some next door neighbor. She just came over and said somebody shot her roommate.
Okay. Did it just happen?
Yeah, she said it just happened. She needs an ambulance in her place. So the roommate, Ashley, is the one that's still alive.
She is still alive?
She said she is, yeah.
Okay, tell her to take a deep breath, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions. Is Ashley bleeding seriously?
Was she bleeding seriously? Yes, she said yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Do we know if Ashley's completely alert?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, she just saw it and she just ran.
Okay.
After receiving the call, police met at Paul's Silver Maple home at 1306 Idaho Street, where they were met by Audrey Butler, who was visibly shaken by the brazenness of the attack. However, Audrey explained that she was the roommate of the women who had been victims of the shooting and that she'd stumbled upon the nerve-wracking scene that morning at 8:55 a.m. At the crime scene, what the officers were about to discover would prove even more unsettling.
What's going on?
I stayed at a friend's last night, and I just came in and I saw that my back door had been broken in, so I went to the back and I could see footsteps in the snow, so I ran up to my room to see if my roommate was okay. I have two roommates.
Okay.
One of them's dead, and the other one is in her room and she's still alive and she needs help, and I ran because I didn't know if he was still in the house.
Okay, so you don't know if there's somebody else in the house?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Lauren looks like she's been in a while, and Ashley's asked me for help and I ran.
Okay. Is this door open?
Yes.
So we have two people upstairs. Is that what you're telling me? Okay.
Help, Ashley.
One was dead, one was alive. It was a daunting task for the police as they tried to determine who the primary target of the killer was, or if both women were the intended victims. With cameras capturing every move, officers slowly approached the house as their main priority was to save the other woman who was still alive. With guns drawn, they moved carefully as the killer could still be inside, waiting for his next victim.
She said this is open. I didn't see any footprints in the snow leading up here. So, you ready?
Yep. Belgrade Police! Police Department! Anybody inside, come out!
Going this way. Bye.
I got stairwell. Police! Son, 326.
Kitchen clear.
All right.
Garage.
Okay. Five nine three 206. Where are you at? We're making entry right now. How many people are inside? We're making entry. How many people?
Garage clear. Up the stairs. We're coming.
Belgrade Police, show me your hands. The doors on the left and right.
Okay.
One down.
We've got cold and touch.
Okay. Livid. Okay. All right, let's back up.
They now had to move forward towards the next room from where a woman's voice was still pleading for help. The danger wasn't over yet, and they had to be prepared for what was far more surprising.
Police!
Hey! I'm in here!
Hello? Police?
Please don't shoot me!
Who shot you?
No, please don't shoot!
I'm not gonna shoot you, ma'am.
My name's Ashley!
Ashley, what's going on? Who shot you?
Nobody!
Oh, what happened?
I don't know! Please come here!
Who did?
I am the police!
I'm the police, right here.
Where are you?
I'm right here. Can you see
Where?
me?
Where are you?
I'm right here.
Where?
Can you tell me what happened?
I don't know, sir.
You don't know, Ashley? Okay,
No.
my name's Officer Robinson, okay?
What's your name?
My name's Officer Robinson.
Are you lying to me?
No.
Ashley Van Hemert was found in a critical state with multiple gunshots, but the officers had no idea that what they'd uncovered was just the tip of the iceberg.
What happened to you? Where are you bleeding from?
I'm not bleeding.
Okay, well, how do you have blood all over you?
Do I?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know why I do. Show me your face then.
I'm right here. Can you see me?
No,
Can you see anything?
no,
No?
no.
Okay.
Please help me.
We're gonna help you, okay?
Please help me.
We've got the medical people coming. Where do you hurt?
I don't hurt anywhere.
You don't hurt anywhere?
No.
Grab around the front.
Yeah, we got a blanket.
Ashley, we're gonna pick you up and we're gonna carry you down to the paramedics, okay?
What are you doing, sir?
We're gonna pick you up and carry you.
Carrying me there. Where are you carrying
We're coming down.
Yeah, just as far as I can get to the door. We're gonna go out to the, I don't want them to pass the sidewalk right here. Who's the most senior paramedic?
The entire neighborhood was in disbelief over the events that had unfolded. While Ashley, though critically injured, remained miraculously conscious, the tragic news was that her roommate Lauren, who had only moved in with them the previous year in 2017, was not able to save herself.
I was at the bank in the morning on Monday morning, and she had a 10 o'clock appointment. So I texted her, say, hey, your 10 o'clock is here. Let me know when you're gonna be here. But there was no answer. About a half hour after that, everybody came downstairs, locked the doors, and told us that she was found dead. I was like, what? I was in shock because I was just like, there's no way. No way, that can't be true.
To piece together the events of what really happened the night before, the officers at the crime scene examined every nook and cranny of the house. However, they got their first clue when Audrey led them to the back door of the house. She explained that when she returned that morning at 8:55 a.m., she found broken pieces of the door frame scattered on the floor. In Lauren's room, officers found 4 shell casings, and in Ashley's room, they discovered 5, which after testing confirmed they were from a .22 caliber gun. But the most integral clue was the bloody footprints left in the snow, tracing a path from the east side of the house around the north and leading to the back door. Fortunately, the footprints remained intact, which allowed investigators to take careful impressions for testing. These footprints held the potential to be the crucial breakthrough they desperately needed, but the process would take time. As they awaited results, the officers braced themselves for what seemed to be an unimaginably sadistic plot which would unravel itself very soon. They'd launched their homicide investigation, and the appalling details of the crime would only start to make sense once the police determined who the real target was as they delved into the twisted mind of the killer. As the detectives continued to solve the mystery of the night, they received a crucial call from the hospital the next day that Ashley was now out of danger and ready to talk. Ashley had sustained gunshot wounds to the back of her head, her carotid artery, and her right arm, along with broken ribs. Despite this, detectives were hopeful that Ashley, the surviving victim, could provide crucial details about the crime and perhaps even identify the killer. They approached her with care, aiming to gather as much information as possible without overwhelming her. However, they weren't prepared for what they were about to hear.
So obviously, you know, we're here to talk to you.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're gonna have some questions, but mostly we just want to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
Just starting out,
Yes.
and I know this is kind of a tough question, but can you tell me, do you remember anything at all?
When I got shot?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
I remember waking up in the hospital. I don't really remember actually waking up in the hospital. I remember kind of doing the I love you sign to my brother when I was, you know, obviously laying in the hospital bed. But no, I do not remember being shot at all. Or however many times they shot me. I think they got me in the shoulder and I think in the elbow too. Obviously the head.
Well, yeah, you're a lucky gal, but everything that I've heard so far is, you know, you're a fighter.
It's a miracle I'm alive. I thank God every day.
For detectives, Ashley's lack of memory was a major setback. So they decided to change their approach, attempting to jog her memory by recounting everything she did the night before the attack, as they hoped to uncover anything that seemed unusual.
So Saturday, this would have been before I got shot, obviously, the day before I got shot. We went to a place in Livingston. It was a hotel.
And you said Ralph drove you home?
Yes, he did.
Can you tell me, do you remember anything from the drive home?
I don't remember a whole lot, no. Maybe if you ask me a more specific question, I might be able to answer. I don't know.
Do you remember any conversations that you guys were having?
Not really specifically, no.
Going from when Ralph dropped you off, what's the last thing you remember that night?
Really, the last thing I remember is I gave him a kiss goodnight and in the car, and he was like, "Okay, I'll watch you go and get inside," and I was like, "Of course you will." So then I went inside. I shut the door, obviously, and really from there on, I don't remember too much.
That night, Ashley had been with her boyfriend, Ralph Denis, who was the last person to visit and leave the house. The officers quickly became suspicious of Ralph's potential involvement in the murder. It was crucial to determine whether Lauren was mistakenly targeted instead of Ashley, or if the motive behind the attack was something else entirely. The police had tracked Ralph down to his residence to question him, but their goal was not to make him feel at ease, but rather to create a sense of panic.
So Ralph, I'm a detective with the sheriff's office, and I did some of the processing of the scene at the house. And so I have some information and I have some questions about stuff that I saw there.
Understood.
So tell me, when did you guys start dating?
Roughly December last year, so a year and change ago.
Okay.
Just over a year.
Okay. And how do you characterize your relationship with her right now?
We've been attempting to break up with each other for several weeks, and pretty much this week we decided together that it was the right thing to do, is to not date each other anymore.
When was the last time you actually had contact with her?
With Ashley?
Yeah.
Last night when I dropped her off.
And that was after the Livingston trip?
After the Livingston trip, right around. We decided it was a little bit before 9 o'clock.
What time did you go to bed last night, Ralph?
Pretty much, I'm going to say, look at my phone, that's how I do everything, but I said goodnight to Ashley and I was up for a little while longer, maybe an hour.
So you're thinking around 11 o'clock when you went to bed?
Thinking so.
Did you go anywhere after?
No, I stayed.
Did you attempt to kill Ashley?
No.
Did you attempt to kill her roommate?
No.
Have you been in that house last night?
No. Do you believe me? Why not? You gotta ask.
Would you be willing to let us dump your phone to
Yes.
retrieve your GPS locations,
Yep.
that kind of stuff off of your phone?
Yep.
Ralph remained surprisingly cooperative throughout the questioning, and detectives also noticed that he wasn't trying to mislead them with any false statements or deceptive emotions. They also seized his phone to check his GPS location and took a DNA sample for testing. But when the results came back, they cleared all doubt about Ralph's involvement. Despite being the last person to leave the house that night, the evidence showed that he hadn't gone inside the house or attacked anyone. After interviewing Ralph, the detectives shifted their focus to the second victim, Lauren, and began looking into her background to see if anyone could have a potential motive to harm her in any possible way. As they dug deeper, they discovered that Lauren was married to a man named Joseph Paul DeWise, and together they had a daughter. Joseph also had 2 children, Joe and Natalie, from a previous marriage. Initially, the blended family lived together, but tensions soon arose, and Lauren had already filed for divorce as she was unhappy with their marriage. So, in 2017, she finally moved to Idaho Street with Audrey and Ashley. One piece of information that caught the detectives' attention was the reason for the couple's separation. Joseph had been consistently abusive towards Lauren, and it was well known among friends and family that she often had numerous bruises, cut marks, severe burns, and other signs of violence on her body. This disturbing history gave the detectives a solid reason to consider Joseph a suspect. They needed to bring Joseph in to question him about the murder, but they had to be cautious. Given the involvement of weapons in the crime, there was a real danger that Joseph might suddenly turn violent. As he drove home, the officers strategically stopped his car at a traffic light, being ready for a potentially dangerous encounter.
Well, this guy opened up the door. Keep your hands up. Okay, go ahead and get out. This is not time to think. Get out. Hands up.
Hands up. Walk over here. Turn around. Look away from me. Walk backwards. Keep coming. Keep coming. Stop. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Do not move. Do you understand me? Take him to the back of my car. All right.
After arresting Joseph, the officers loaded him into their car and brought him in for questioning, but this wasn't going to be an easy one.
So the reason that I wanted to talk to you is there was some issues that happened over at Lauren's house this morning, and I just kind of wanted to touch base with you to see if you were over there at all, if kind of where you were this morning, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Well, someone broke into the back door of her place, and so we're trying to get all of the stuff together, and from what I understand, you guys were separated and working on a divorce.
Okay.
And that's kind of where we're at.
Sure, right?
Well, not really. She isn't. Well, the person that came in ended up shooting her. So
she's dead?
Yeah. So.
Oh my God.
So that's why we're talking to you, because you guys are going through a divorce, and from what I understand, and we need to kind of figure out what's going on.
And so, absolutely anything that you can tell us that might give us a little clarity would be helpful for both of us.
This is news to me. I don't know anything about it.
Complete news, complete surprise.
They told me when they picked me up they're investigating a homicide. I did not think there's some weird stuff's been happening since I've been in Bozeman. So I'm like, geez,
Yeah.
Well, let me let me just say right off the bat, I understand Lauren, regardless of your relational issues. I understand.
I love her.
Lauren's very important to you. And I'm so sorry that you're going through this right now.
Joseph displayed all the signs of being deeply saddened and disturbed by his wife's death. For the detectives, it was challenging to determine whether he was the grieving husband or the killer sitting before them. They needed a clearer understanding of the relationship between Joseph and Lauren, knowing that in such cases, everyone is a suspect until proven otherwise.
Can you tell me a little bit about how the separation has been going?
It depends on who you ask. Like, for her, it's fine. For me, it's been really tough.
I want to know from you.
I've had trouble dealing with it, you know?
Can you, let's just start with a basic timeline. So what about last evening, last night, as detailed as you can, say from the end of dinner time? Tell me about what you
I fell asleep again. I'm not sure when I slept.
What time do you think you went to bed?
Gosh, it was late. Actually, it did go out. I went and got a 6-pack of beer around midnight at Town Pump. Probably went to bed around 2.
And that was about midnight? You got a 6-pack of beer, right?
Yep.
Here, Joseph provided an alibi, claiming he was out with his son Joe the night of the attack. Now, to verify the alibi's validity, the detectives needed to interview Joe as a corroborating witness. However, before that, with no concrete evidence to hold Joseph, they had to release him from custody, but they did seize his phone to search for potential clues. So, while the process continued, Joe was summoned to provide his account of the night's events.
Just so you understand who I am, my name's Jeremy Kopp. I'm the detective sergeant for the sheriff's office. Okay? Obviously, you know what happened to Dad. Given that, then I need to be able to sit down and be able to talk to you. Right? How was your relationship with her?
We were close.
Yeah.
She was like my mom, but
okay.
She wasn't my mom, but she was pretty much like my mom.
Let's go to Saturday. And just walk me through Saturday.
Okay. Day before Sunday. So Saturday, let's see, starting in the morning. I got up around like maybe 12-ish, around 12.
Joe had a detailed and clear recollection of the events from that day. He described his activities leading up to the attack and confirmed he was with his father throughout the night, including their visit to the beer shop.
Why'd you go?
I just go with him, just because.
Yeah. Excuse me. I mean, do you hang with your dad quite a bit? Yeah. You were just pretty tight?
Yeah. So we just...
Fair enough to say.
Just whatever we do. Yeah.
Is it just you and Dad then on the beer run? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you don't recall hearing any doors or anything open when you go to bed?
Right. Everything's quiet.
Okay. So it's important that you and I, as we kind of work through the details, that we're completely truthful with each other.
Right.
Okay. That's pretty important.
Right.
What do you think happened?
She was in her home sleeping, and as I know from what my dad told me, body, it could have been drugs or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it could be drugs. I don't know.
Who do you think could do something like that?
I don't know.
No guesses.
No guesses. I don't really know, but
yeah.
And it couldn't be my dad. He was.
Both Joseph and Joe's statements matched up perfectly. Also, after checking the CCTV footage from the beer shop, it captured Joseph entering and leaving at the specified times, confirming his alibi. This evidence cleared him of any immediate suspicion and shifted the focus back to the investigation. With Ralph and Joseph cleared as suspects, the detectives found themselves back at square one. They needed to revisit the case from scratch, reconstructing the timeline of events and re-examining every piece of evidence. Despite their efforts, they had found no additional fingerprints at the crime scene beyond the victims, which made the case even more perplexing. It was a grueling process, but not for a long time, as soon the disturbing story would start to unfold. The detectives received a critical call from the crime lab that changed everything. After extensive testing, they discovered that the photograph of the boot prints from the crime scene showed not just one, but two distinct sets of footprints. The significant detail suggested that there could have been two suspects involved in the homicide. Moreover, one of the footprints was noticeably smaller than the other. This information immediately struck the detectives and spurred them into action. They remembered that Joseph and Joe had been out together that night, and Joe's footprints were smaller than his father's. Suspicion turned back to Joseph, but they had to proceed with caution. Joseph could easily present himself as a victim or flee the country if he faced danger. With this in mind, the detectives decided to bring in Joe for another interview to extract more details about the night of the murder without alerting Joseph to their renewed suspicions.
So yesterday, you and I kind of talked about the timeline and what everybody had done on Saturday, and we talked about that kind of in detail going into Sunday morning, the 7th, right? Okay. So, let's start with this.
Joe had stuck to his story and repeated the same account he'd given before. But the interrogator sensed something was off. Joe seemed nervous, as if he was hiding something. So the interrogator decided to take a different approach by offering Joe support and understanding to coax out the truth. Slowly, the walls Joe had built around himself began to crumble, revealing the chilling truth, which was his father's horrifying secret.
Okay. That's pretty accurate to what you told me yesterday. Which is unfortunate, because I don't think that's actually what happened. And I was hoping that today you and I could break through that and we could talk about what actually happened. Because if I can't get you to be honest with me, I can't help you. And I don't believe that you're being completely truthful with me. And I don't know exactly why, but I'm not willing to give up on you. I think that we can get through it. Okay? I know that this is really hard for you to sit here. I know it. I can see the weight on you. And the only way I can help is if you and I are honest with each other. I can't help. I can't do anything if you and I aren't honest with each other in here. Okay?
Please, son, please. Okay.
Was it just your dad?
Come on, son.
Did he tell you to go to bed? And then what did he tell you?
I love you. I didn't think. I just love you, dear Dad. It's bad. It is Stanley. I love you.
You knew what he was going to do.
I did. I was stopped. But no, Dad, you can't do that. You're going to lose you. You can't do that. I didn't know. You didn't tell me. Dad stopped him. I would have stopped him.
Was it you or him? Tell me.
Listen.
It was pain when he finally got to that point of releasing, and he whispered the answer the first time. Just being with him in that moment. Because it was hard.
Joyce. I was afraid of my sisters.
I know you were.
I didn't have a choice. I had to.
And then how far did you go back? How far did you go in the house? Could you see the stairs? Could you see the stairs?
Yeah.
Could you hear him?
Yes.
What'd you hear?
What the hell is wrong with you? He said, go. Get him, go.
Father,
On the evening of January 6th, Joseph suddenly asked his son to get ready because they were going out. As they drove, Joe realized they were heading to Belgrade and started to feel uneasy as his stepmother lived there on Idaho Street. His dad had also told him to leave his phone on his bed, which struck him as odd. When Joseph parked the car a few houses down from Lauren's, Joe's bad feeling intensified. It was around midnight when Joseph pulled a small caliber semi-automatic pistol from his waistband. He told Joe that if he did as instructed, everything would be okay. Joseph handed Joe a pair of plastic gloves and a mask, putting on his own. They walked silently to the back of the house where Lauren lived. Wearing work boots, they paused briefly on the back deck before Joseph kicked in the door. After checking all the rooms downstairs, he headed upstairs, with Joe following closely behind. Joseph held the pistol in his right hand as he opened the bedroom door, turned on the light, and shot Ashley multiple times within a matter of seconds. Then he opened another bedroom door without turning on the light, and Joe heard a terrified gasp followed by more gunshots. They immediately rushed back to the car and left the scene. Joseph drove to a town pump, tucking the pistol into his waistband before heading inside, while Joe remained in the car, feeling nauseous and trying to steady his breathing, as soon Joseph returned with a six-pack of beer and they drove home. Once they returned home, Joseph dumped the boots which could link him to the crime. He also ordered Joe to dispose of some old smoke grenades and .22 ammunition at Bozeman Pond Park, which the detectives later retrieved. That night, Joseph coached his son on what to say about the night's events. He threatened Joe, warning him not to incriminate him and to stick to the story that they'd been home all evening watching television. Terrified for his sister, whom Joseph had always abused, Joe obeyed as he feared the dire consequences if he didn't. But that wasn't the end, as detectives also uncovered more disturbing details from Joseph's phone. A thorough search revealed a series of threatening messages and audio recordings that highlighted the abusive dynamic between Joseph and Lauren.
You've always told me that you're That's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to express myself now.
You're such a lying piece of
Are you serious?
I'm gonna do it. I'm so tired of you looking at me like this innocent fake. Tell me.
I've nothing.
I've done everything for you. I've given up everything for you. And the only thing you ever cried about is you. That's it. You know what? I'm gonna. She's gonna happen.
Also, the search of Joseph's house turned up even more damning evidence linking him to the crime. Detectives found .22 caliber ammunition and a magazine matching the gun used in the shootings. Ballistic tests confirmed that the shell casings found at the crime scene matched the ammunition seized from Joseph's residence. Coupled with Joe's incriminating statement and the mounting evidence against him, the detectives requested an arrest warrant for Joseph. It was finally time for him to face the consequences of his actions. During the trial in 2018, both sides presented numerous arguments, but the weight of evidence from the prosecution was overwhelming. A total of 12 people were called to testify, and their hurt and anger towards Joseph were palpable. Each testimony painted a more harrowing picture of Joseph's actions and character.
And I actually started to talk to her, and as I walked closer to the threshold of the door, I saw that she was dead. Ashley was laying on the floor. There was a lot of blood in her memory. She was awake. Her eyes were wide open. She said, "Please help me."
I was shot in the back of the head. I was shot in the right carotid artery. And I know that I was shot on my right side as well.
What's the next day that you can remember after going to bed?
This is no, and this is yes.
Honestly, it's like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I started to go back, and before we left the house, he told me to leave my phone on my bed. And it was very odd. He opened the first door in the hallway.
Then what happened?
He had his pistol in his right hand, and he opened the door with his left. He stepped dressed into the room past the threshold, and he turned on the light, and someone was in the room.
Detectives also took the stand by presenting the evidence against Joseph.
Can you tell from the records that have been provided when that firearm was purchased?
Yes, according on his phone of an altercation between him, Lauren, and I believe both of the children defendants starts threatening her, threatening to kill her. He says very specifically, I think at least 5 times, I'm going to kill you.
Though everything was going nowhere in favor of Joseph, he took the stand, but stuck to his story as he repeated that he was innocent.
I have been in jail for 22 months waiting for an opportunity to explain to a jury that I'm innocent. I never threatened my wife in any way like that. I'm not that kind of a person. I respected and I loved her strength and her individuality. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence out there, all right? But you know what? If a lot of you took a real good look at your life and you thought about things that you did and then something bad happened, you could be in the same boat I'm in. The state wants to put so much pressure on me that I would just crack and take the blame for it so that I could get out of the horrible situation I was in. I have been falsely accused here. I didn't do it. And I don't deserve to go to prison. And what you've done is wrong. Okay? That is the truth.
At the end of the trial, it didn't take long for the jury to reach a verdict.
Joseph Paul DeWise, count 1, to the charge of deliberate homicide of Lauren DeWise, guilty.
Joseph was sentenced to 220 years in prison for the murder of Lauren and the attempted homicide of Ashley without the possibility of parole.
You know, I think in any other case, you would be absolutely ecstatic and gratified, and you this is the moment we've been looking for. Given the circumstances of this case, it was absolutely horrifying and heartbreaking. It's tragic, and that any father would ever subject his son to that, it makes you angry, and probably something that I'll never forget.
That one horrifying night forever changed the lives of everyone involved, leaving scars that would never fully heal. Especially Ashley, the surviving victim, was left with a profound impact both physically and emotionally.
Of course, I had questions of, well, why did it have to happen to me as well? Like, why did I have to get shot? But I've learned through the process that it's not my responsibility to figure out all of the whys. It's my responsibility to just trust in God that no matter what happens, He is still by my side and I will still prevail through anything. There's one of my favorite lines now that I really go by is, what the enemy meant for evil, God will turn for good.
Hi.
Hi.
So what's going on here?
So, my sister, his daughter, has been missing for 5 days now.
Okay.
I've seen a boatload of flies behind the shed. And when I pulled things out, we have these bags.
Smells like death in there.
Don't make me think she's there. Don't tell me she's there.
When 23-year-old Kevin Marzejka found dead bodies wrapped in plastic bags in his shed, he had no idea that it was just the beginning of a mystery that would change everything forever.
That doesn't look normal. Let's grab a mask.
I've been employed with Clinton Township Police for 18 years. This one will stand out in my mind as being more gruesome, if not than any one I've ever seen.
The deranged motive behind this unspeakable act would soon unravel and prove to be the catalyst of a dark and sinister secret.
Because if that's her in my shed, I'm done, son. I'd rather not involve somebody that doesn't need to be involved.
You realize we're talking about possibly dead people here, right?
It all started on the tense afternoon of August 26, 2018, when the Clinton police received a disturbing 911 call at exactly 6:20 p.m. about a deadly discovery.
911, where's your
Hello?
emergency?
Hi, I need someone to come to my house immediately.
Okay, what's going on over there?
Well, my sister's been missing for 4 or 5 days. Her and her boyfriend. And we just found 2 bags in the shed, and there's flies all. I think they're in the shed in a bag, okay? And I'm just scared to open it.
Okay, we don't want you to touch anything, okay? Because if it is something like that, there's going to be evidence, okay?
We stopped.
Okay,
we stopped.
You said there's how many bags in that shed?
There's like 5 bags, but these 2 are the ones with flies all over them, okay? Can you just get someone here to check, please?
Yep, we're getting everyone on the way. What's your name?
Kevin Marzejka. Go over here, please.
When the police arrived at Rudgate, Clinton, Michigan, they had no idea that the alarming nature of the 911 call failed to even scratch the surface of the horror waiting for them.
Hi.
Hi.
So what's going on here?
On the scene, they were first met by Kevin Marzejka and his father, Robert Sr.
My sister, his daughter, has been missing for 5 days now.
Okay.
I did a walk around the house to check if there's any trails or anything suspicious. I've seen a boatload of flies behind the shed. And when I pulled things out, we have these bags.
Smells like death in there.
Filled with flies, and they don't look good. I can't even open it.
What makes you think that she's there? What makes you think something happened to her?
Don't make me think she's there. Don't tell me she's there.
By that point, Kevin's sister, Danielle Marzejka, and her boyfriend, Seren Bryan, had already been missing for 3 days. While still looking for them everywhere, something strange had started to bother Kevin and Robert Sr. The shed in the backyard had been giving off a foul odor for days. But that morning, it had grown so unbearable that Robert Sr. couldn't ignore it anymore. When his own key was nowhere to be found, he called Kevin to bring the spare one and what they found inside was far more horrifying than anything they could have imagined.
See what we got first, and
yeah, I mean, we don't even know what we have.
That doesn't look normal. Let's grab a mask.
There should be 2 in there, right? And let's do this. You want to do booties?
Yes. Just in case. I got seniority. I'll do like.
Inside, there were mattresses and piles of household bags stacked up on both sides. But the real concern were the 2 large black bags in the corner, swarmed by flies and having a sickening and decomposing stench. As the officers checked from the sliced part of the bag, the sight left him stunned. It was a pale, veiny leg sticking out, with the glimpse of a bloodied hand.
Oh yeah, it's dude. We don't have to cut. We're confirmed. We're confirmed. Confirmed.
It's confirmed. Yes, it is. It is. Get everybody out here.
The officers knew their job wasn't done yet and decided to search the house for any additional evidence or clues. The shed didn't seem like the scene of the crime. The officers considered instead whether something incriminating was hidden inside.
Please, probably not my girl.
Police!
I peeled off to the left and we started searching and just started going room by room, checking everything.
They scoured every corner of the house, from the drawers to the floors, but everything appeared untouched and eerily undisturbed. They were now ready to start their double homicide investigation. After searching the house, the officers turned their attention back to the bodies to understand the vicious nature of the attack.
Okay, I'm gonna start tape.
Here, I got tape right here.
I'll tie it here, and then we'll get the front. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the plate.
Hey, you got a doozy here today. You haven't even opened that second bag, yeah. So we don't know. It looks that each bag looks like it would be one body.
I watched as both bodies were removed from the bags, and I saw that both bodies had been duct taped. Their hands were bound together, their feet were bound together. They also had duct tape around their mouths or over their nose, and they also had bags put over their head and then duct taped around those bags around their neck.
What made it even more disturbing were the clear signs of asphyxiation. Duct tape had been tightly wrapped around their heads with layers of 5 plastic bags in total, along with black contractor bags and store shopping bags, which left no chance for them to breathe. The bodies were decomposing to such an extent that they weren't even able to identify them. Now, as the officers carefully opened one of the bags, they found multiple items inside soaked in blood. Among them was a small mallet, also covered in blood, which they immediately suspected to be the murder weapon, given the severe head trauma found on the bodies. But the horrors didn't stop there. Digging further, they uncovered a roll of duct tape drenched in blood, along with blood-soaked bedsheets. It was clear these sheets had likely been used to wrap the bodies before they were dumped in the shed. It was undoubtedly a well-planned murder.
I've been employed with Clinton Township Police for 18 years. This one will stand out in my mind as being more gruesome, if not than any one I've ever seen.
By this time, word had spread, and friends and family gathered anxiously outside the house. Inside, the police were still trying to piece together what had happened to Danielle and Seren, as they were still missing, and every clue so far only deepened their sense of unease. To get more insight, the officers decided to speak with a co-worker and friend of both Danielle and Seren.
How old is she?
18. Her and her boyfriend Seren, who's 19, are both missing.
Danielle and Seren both worked at National Coney Island, and on the night of August 23rd, the day they went missing, they had worked a late shift. As usual, their co-worker had picked them up and dropped them home. However, the next day, things had taken a strange turn when she sent Danielle a few messages, but for the first time, there was no reply. It was unlike Danielle, who, like most teenagers, was constantly on her phone, always carrying her charger to stay connected. Her silence was worrying, But the real alarm came the next day, on August 24th, when neither Danielle nor Seren showed up for work.
They both work with me. I dropped them off after work on Thursday morning. They've been missing since Thursday at 8 a.m. That's when I dropped them off. That's the last time they were
Where'd
seen.
you drop them off?
Here, at their house, after work.
That was the last time you saw them?
That's the last time anyone saw them.
Not only her, but Danielle's family also began to notice her disappearance. It was by August 25th, 2018, with still no sign of either of them and no way to reach them, that Robert Sr. decided it was time to take action and file the missing persons report. Yet it wasn't until the next day, August 26th, that a deeper sense of dread settled in as he noticed an odd, decomposing smell lingering near the shed.
So we were looking for the key. We couldn't find the key. One of the keys is missing. So we found the spare, and there was a bag covered in flies. It smelled like death, and we were trying to figure out what was in it. So her dad and brother cut it open and pulled the plastic apart, and then both screamed and freaked out and ran to the shed.
Later that night, the officers also talked with Robert Sr. to gather more information, but they quickly noticed that something was terribly odd.
It's kind of rough, isn't it, man? What are they doing? Yeah, not for a little while. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they got it. Don't want to, and daughter. I know, I get it.
When your shed, it was locked, right?
Yeah.
You and Kevin locked, right?
Yep.
Whose key did you use?
Mine.
So at this point in the investigation, we had a shed that was not broken into. Someone used a key to get into that shed. We had what appeared to be 2 bodies stuffed in bags in that shed. We had a couple different stories on whose key was used. And at that point, we were trying to figure out whose story was true, who we could believe and who we couldn't.
Even though it was late, the investigation couldn't wait. Kevin and Robert Sr. were called to the Clinton police station at 11:57 p.m. for questioning.
Should wait here until detectives get here, okay? No problem.
Kevin was completely cooperative throughout as the investigators explored different possibilities behind Danielle's disappearance.
What's your name? Kevin. Kevin, Joe Burns. I'm a detective here. Yeah, quit. How's Seren's relationship been with Danielle? I mean, they get along?
I mean, from what I was told from her friends,
okay,
that her boyfriend would never hurt her. So I figured if, she got hurt, he was with her,
So just so I can get this straight in my head, because I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
Living there at that time, so within the last week, I had you living there, your dad.
Yeah.
Seren.
Yeah.
Danielle. Was there anybody else?
My brother.
Okay. And what's your brother's name?
Robert.
Okay.
It was for the first time since the 911 call the investigators heard the name of another brother, Robert Jr. It immediately struck them as odd. With everything that had unfolded, why hadn't Robert Jr. been there during such a critical moment for the family?
Were you trying to communicate with him that night?
I tried on Facebook Messenger.
Okay. But you didn't try to.
And, well, the thing is, I could tell, he caught, drift of what's going on, and he pretty much said he's shutting his phone off. I gotta go charge my phone, and then he never came back online.
Right.
So I didn't bother trying to call, trying to text. If he's not coming back online, he's obviously knows what's going on at that point.
At this point, their suspicions started to center on Robert Jr., who had lived in the same mobile home with his family. But before moving forward, they needed to know more about Robert Sr. and the reason behind his strange behavior.
What about your dad? How's your dad?
Always a drunk.
Okay.
And we lost my mom in 2011, and he's never really been the same, Well, he's always drank. Before, he used to take pain pills, too.
Right.
And the mix of the both always made it.
Okay.
He just blatantly was no reason. 3 kids, we've been on our own pretty much since,
What does he do?
He paints.
Okay.
Yeah.
So has he been painting at all?
Yep.
Okay. So he's been going out to work, but you said he's drinking quite a bit?
Yeah.
Kevin revealed that his father could behave like 2 completely different people after drinking, but as they dug more, the more twisted and complicated the case became.
All I do is worry about her. And now, the end is near. And so I face the final curtain.
For you?
Why for you? Because if that's her in my shed, I'm done, son.
Robert Sr. seemed increasingly disoriented by his own statements. Earlier, he'd admitted to opening the shed with his own key, but now his story was changing, twisting into something far more sinister.
And you don't remember whose key you used to get in there?
You know what? My key wasn't on the shelf.
Right.
I remember that.
Now you
Where
remember.
it always is.
Now you remember it after I told you that.
What?
Because the whole day you were telling me that it was your key you were using.
Because that's what I always use. All right?
And then when I told you that...
Listen, well, believe me, I haven't slept in days.
Okay, well, I get
Listen.
that.
Listen. I remember it because I went up on the shelf where I have the house keys, and it wasn't there. So I said, my key's not there. And I checked my pockets, because sometimes I have it. No, it wasn't there. Because we had to break the damn lock to get in.
Right.
There was no doubt he was under suspicion, but investigators remained curious about Robert Jr. as well.
Where is Robert staying at right now?
I have no clue.
You said Robert was with you when you went to work on Thursday?
Yeah.
Did he pick you up, or did you go pick him up, or how did it work?
No, he picked me up. He dropped me off.
Okay. So he picked you up in the morning?
Yep.
Dropped you off at 5:30?
Yep.
So you were with him the whole day?
Yes.
I'm trying to put pieces together because we want to talk to Robert so that we can get his story too,
I'd rather not involve somebody that doesn't need to be involved.
You realize we're talking about possibly dead people here, right?
Surprisingly, Robert Sr. seemed intent on protecting his son, Robert Jr., which raised even more questions. Why was he shielding him? What was happening between them? Were they hiding a dark secret about the murders? Despite the growing suspicions, there wasn't enough evidence to hold them, so both were allowed to leave, and the night ended in mystery and uncertainty. The next day, on August 27, 2018, the investigators received the autopsy results. The findings confirmed that both victims had died from asphyxiation due to the duct tape and blunt force trauma to the head, which was likely inflicted by the bloodied mallet found earlier. But the most devastating blow came when the bodies were finally identified to be that of Danielle's and Seren's.
My sister Danielle was a very beautiful soul. I mean, she was very unique and very creative. She loved the odd things in life. She didn't go for your basic, girly things that they all love, whether it's, flowers and whatnot. I mean, she loved spiders and bees and odd things like that, things that didn't get the normal attention. And a lot of her pictures, she would kind of put her head up and just her arms open and kind of embrace the world.
Seren was a very kind person. He was sensitive to how others felt and wanted people to be comfortable and happy. He liked to draw and create art. He had sketch journals. Sometimes he shared them, and asking questions about them, I found out more about his day and how things were going.
It was their inner beauty that had brought them together, and after years of dating, Seren, who had lived an hour and a half away with his mother Diana Bryan, made the decision to move in with Danielle's family. From that point on, they all lived under one roof, never imagining that their future would soon be tragically stolen from them. When news of the murders broke, countless theories began swirling, and people speculated on motives, suspects, and scenarios, but a few provoking details stood out to the investigators. It made them believe that something far darker was right in front of them, yet somehow still slipping through their fingers. The bodies had no defensive wounds, which meant that neither Danielle nor Seren had fought back. But the bigger question was, how could two people be killed, wrapped in layers of bags without anyone noticing, and then dumped into a locked shed that required a key to open? It seemed unlikely that this could have been done without the assistance of someone close to the family, or even from the family. After connecting all the dots, the investigators' first stop was the mobile home where Danielle and Seren had lived. Armed with a search warrant, they had no idea that they were walking into the house of hell. At first, the house appeared to be normal as ever, but when they stepped into Danielle's room, the picture started becoming clear.
Looking around to your naked eye, it would look just like a bedroom. We use this stuff called Blue Star, so it reacts to where blood was. And the reason why we use that is because at this crime scene, someone had cleaned up. Someone had staged this bedroom to look like nothing happened in that room.
Not only staged, but the person had spent a lot of time cleaning up the massive amount of blood. The detectives then moved towards Robert Jr.'s room, where things took an even more unsettling turn. Inside his closet, they found several items splattered with blood, and it seemed to have been hastily thrown into the closet in a desperate attempt to hide evidence.
The evidence tech located a bunch of evidence, black duct tape that had blood on it and hair on it, sheets that had blood on it, towels that had blood on it, a lot of different things that looked like were used to clean up maybe a crime scene.
With blood present everywhere, from the rooms to the doors, and everything that had been touched by bloody hands, the investigators had extensive evidence which strongly suggested that Robert Jr. was deeply involved in the murders of his sister Danielle and her boyfriend Seren. With him still missing, the investigators now faced a manhunt to track him down.
If Robert Jr. is on the run, he could be pretty far away by now. We also discovered that their family van was now missing and no one knew where it was. So we're starting to realize that Robert Jr., if he is our suspect, could have fled in that van. At that point, things started to move a little bit quicker for us, and we had to move fast.
As investigators dug into Robert Jr.'s background, they discovered that he'd been struggling with serious mental health issues for years. After the death of their mother, Jill, in 2011, when Robert Jr. was just 17, he'd started hearing voices and acting unusually. Over time, his condition worsened, leading to multiple hospitalizations due to his erratic behavior. Despite being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and paranoia, Robert Jr. consistently refused to take his prescribed medications. As a result, his mental state became increasingly aggressive, marked by frequent hallucinations, paranoia, and hyperactive speech. All this information was highly alarming, and finding Robert Jr. quickly became crucial, not only for solving the case, but also for ensuring the safety of others.
We got a search warrant for his cell phone records. I was looking at the 23rd, which was the last day that Seren and Danielle's coworker saw them. Well, later that morning, early afternoon, I see Robert Jr. was calling a local cab company. And I followed up with that cab company to find out if they did show up to give him a ride.
It didn't take long for the investigators to track down the cab driver and bring him in for questioning.
So I spoke to your operator. I asked her about the 23rd. You recall going to pick up somebody at that at a trailer last Thursday?
Okay, I think I kind of do remember.
Can you tell me anything about that pickup on who it was or anything you recall?
Oh, I can't really remember. Dropped him off at Wendy's. Or I asked him, did you have a specific spot you want to be dropped off? And he said first, I think, at Walgreens and then at Wendy's. And I pulled right in and very first parking spot, he got out and paid me, and that's all I know.
Without wasting any time, the investigators made their way to Wendy's, which doubled as a bus stop. They quickly noticed several CCTV cameras covering every angle of the area, so they requested footage from August 23rd, and sure enough, Robert Jr. appeared on the videos, casually wandering around.
He's just acting like the normal guy that you might be standing behind in line at the counter.
What struck them most was how calm he seemed, as if nothing had happened. There wasn't any trace of blood on his clothes, and his demeanor made it hard to believe he'd just been involved in such a vicious crime. From the CCTV recordings, they spotted him boarding a bus, and acting quickly, they obtained the bus number and requested the interior CCTV footage. This footage from August 23rd painted a completely different picture from what Robert Sr. had told investigators. Claimed that Robert Jr. was with them all day at work across town, but now, seeing him get on a bus, it was clear that he wasn't. This raised serious doubts about Robert Sr.'s involvement. It seemed he was intentionally covering up for his son, possibly knowing more about the murders than he was letting on, or perhaps hiding his own involvement. With the new evidence, the investigators were certain that Robert Jr. was on the run in his 1999 white Ford E250 van. Therefore, the Clinton police reached out to the van's previous owner in order to track it down, explaining that the vehicle might be connected to a double homicide.
Previous owner, when he had it put up for sale, had taken a bunch of pictures of the van. So I created a crime bulletin. We distributed that to other law enforcement agencies and to the media to get it out to the public.
While the manhunt for Robert Jr. had just begun, the families of Danielle and Seren gathered to hold a memorial in their honor.
One of his friends and classmates brought a blank canvas to both memorials, and then she laid out different enamel paints, and people put fingerprints or thumbprints on the canvas. I have that. It was more than enough, and it's what was right for him.
While time seemed to drag painfully slowly for the grieving families, the investigators were working at full speed. On the morning of August 29, 2018, at around 10:08 a.m., they received a call from Officer Anthony Duncan in Toledo, Ohio, as he had reason to believe that Robert Jr. might be in the area.
My thought process, I'm trying to think like Mr. Marzejka. He's trying to blend in within the community. I used the homeless to help me. I needed them to pound the pavement for me.
The investigators soon received a crucial tip from homeless people in the area who reported seeing Robert Jr.'s white van parked near a local grocery store. However, when the police arrived, Robert Jr. was nowhere in sight. The van had been abandoned, with all the materials still inside. Though they thoroughly searched the vehicle, they weren't sure if Robert Jr. would return, but one thing was clear. He'd been in the area recently, and that gave them a point to start at. Determined not to lose the trail, the Toledo police began canvassing local businesses near where the van was found. They combed through hours of CCTV footage, and after what felt like an endless search, they made a chance discovery.
He's wearing a disguise, the blonde wig and sunglasses and the tan baseball cap. It looked so foolish. But he just stood out. He thought he was trying to blend in, but he actually stood out.
Robert Jr. was next seen entering a shop where he bought a phone, likely to make a quick call to someone. Shortly after, he returned the phone, neatly packaged back up, and exchanged it for cash. It was clear he was being cautious with every move he made. After that, he was spotted at a nearby gas station buying some food. His actions showed he was trying to stay under the radar while still keeping himself on the move.
He went there and purchased cigarettes and beverages and everything. But he was denied cigarettes because he didn't have identification. It's a challenge to me. It's like a cat and mouse game. He's trying to get away. My job is to catch him.
At this point, Robert Jr. could have easily slipped through their fingers, as they had no more CCTV footage to follow his movements. But one crucial insight saved the entire investigation from falling apart. They realized that Robert Jr. had no close friends to rely on, so if he planned to flee from Ohio, he would need new identification. Knowing that security checks would require ID at any station, they turned their focus to reviewing the CCTV footage from local train and bus stations. Finally, their instincts paid off when, while scanning the footage at the bus station ticket counter, they spotted Robert Jr. again. This time, he'd bought a ticket to Cincinnati using his alias Josh Bianca at 11:55 p.m. on August 28th. His bus was set to arrive at around 3:45 p.m. the next day. This breakthrough was exactly what the investigators needed, and they immediately contacted the U.S. Marshals in Cincinnati, alerting them to start combing the area for Robert Jr. and capture him as soon as he was spotted, thereby putting an end to the chase.
We have many core missions, but one of them is fugitive apprehension. And we pretty much pride ourselves in working with local police departments. It's best to have U.S. Marshals because there's not anywhere we can't go. If we need to, in some cases, we can go outside the country as well. He had about a 6-hour head start on us, and we knew that he had definitely came to Cincinnati, so that was our breadcrumb at the time. So at that point in time, we started heading toward the Greyhound station there in Cincinnati.
Robert Jr. wasn't going to be an easy target. The moment he arrived in Cincinnati, his first stop was to the Greyhound station, where he'd asked an employee 2 key questions: where could he buy a phone, and where the library was located. It seemed like he was following a carefully crafted plan, trying to stay under the radar. With this information, the U.S. Marshals quickly sent several undercover agents to the Cincinnati Public Library, ready to catch him. But they knew they had to be cautious. Robert Jr. was on high alert. If he sensed anything suspicious or noticed officers in tactical gear, he might try to make a run for it. The officers began tailing Robert Jr. as he moved through the lobby of the library. A security guard sat just inside the doorway, facing the elevators. The marshals showed him a picture of Robert Jr. and instructed him not to approach the suspect, as he was dangerous. They asked the guard to keep a close eye on his movements and stay alert. Soon after, Robert Jr. stepped into an elevator while the officers watched closely, waiting for the right moment to make their move. He was disguised, wearing a blonde wig, a hat, and holding a coffee cup, trying to blend in. But as soon as he returned to the lobby, the officers sprang into action. With guns drawn, they swiftly approached Robert Jr., and he was caught completely off guard, frozen in shock as he realized his time on the run had come to an end. The U.S. Marshals quickly arrested him right there in the lobby, putting an end to the manhunt.
So the marshals had their man, but that was not the end of my job. I had to continue with the investigation. Robert Jr. was transported up to the Clinton Township Police Department. Once he's up here, I got word that he wanted to talk to me, which surprised me. I didn't know that he would talk.
Finally, on August 29, 2018, the authorities had their suspect right in front of them. Now, their top priority was to get a confession, and they knew they couldn't rush things, so they adopted a careful approach. The investigators worked to make Robert Jr. feel comfortable, trying to build trust and make him believe that they were there to help him.
Obviously, what happened was unimaginable, you know, and it happened to your sister, which is awful. Okay, but a lot of times there's reasons why things happen, and whether those reasons are understandable or not, I'm just here to hear you out. Okay. So, what did you have to say to us? Did something happen that set you off, or what happened?
Well, my first question is, what is my charges? I
can show it to you, okay?
Okay, so normally,
you got 2 counts. This is actually the charge document here. 2 counts of homicide, murder in the first degree.
What is that?
Premeditated.
What is premeditated?
I mean, you plan to do it. And if that's not the case, you tell me. You're looking at the worst charge not. Okay. Killing 2 people. Alright? But nobody can understand why this happened.
Robert Jr. showed little interest in explaining the murders or even acknowledging the seriousness of what he'd done. He seemed distant and disconnected. But when he asked if he could call his brother Kevin, investigators saw a glimmer of hope. They thought this could be the moment. Maybe he would finally open up and confess everything.
Hello? Hello? Hey. So, are you gonna make this case go easier, bro?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
Are you guys okay in the house? Like,
we're not living there anymore, Rob. There's blood everywhere. So, are you pleading guilty to everything?
no, I'm not. Wait,
Why?
I can't really talk about it on the phone, but
Robert Jr. had already made up his mind to plead not guilty, which greatly frustrated the investigators. They needed his confession to build a strong case against him, and without it, things became more complicated. However, the investigators were determined. They knew they had the right suspect in custody and willing to do it all. So they proceeded to arrest and charge Robert Jr. with the murders of his sister, Danielle Marzejka, and her boyfriend, Seren Bryan, confident that they had enough evidence to hold him accountable for the crimes.
Seren and Danielle return home at 8 in the morning from working all night and go to bed. Robert Sr. and Robert Jr. were going to go paint that day. Robert Jr. was nowhere to be found. He wasn't in his bedroom. He wasn't there. So I believe Robert Sr. left to go to work. And then Robert Jr. then returned home at some point that morning. And something bad happened in Seren and Danielle's bedroom. But I believe that they were bludgeoned to the head and knocked out right away. And probably right then is when Robert Jr. taped them up so they couldn't move.
No one could undo what happened that tragic night to Danielle and Seren, but Seren's mother, Diana, had something to say to the person responsible for her son's death during the trial when her emotions overwhelmed her.
I first met Seren on March 23rd, 1998. I saw his heart beating during an ultrasound that day. He's been in my heart and thoughts every day since. My hope was that he would grow up to be a kind, thoughtful person who loved himself and others. And I'm very thankful that I saw him become that man. This is the man now known as one of two bodies found in trash bags in a shed. Each day, I struggle to not let his final day affect me more than that day I first saw his heart beating. I say to myself, sometimes out loud, you cannot keep Seren in that day. You can't keep him in pain. Seren isn't there anymore.
After 6 days of an emotional trial filled with pain and heartache, the jury returned with their decision on November 23, 2019. It took them only 40 minutes to deliver the verdict. Robert Marzejka Jr. was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder for killing his sister Danielle and her boyfriend, Seren Bryan. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While the family's grief was immense and their loss could never be undone, the verdict brought some sense of closure. They could now cherish the memories of Danielle and Seren, knowing that justice had been served.
As much as my brother's done, I don't hate him. He's where he deserves to be. You know, he's where he belongs. I don't forgive him, and I don't think I ever will, but I don't hate him, and I definitely don't love him either. He's just not my brother. He's just some stranger that